Hey guys, let's talk about the iMac and the M32 Edit program. First thing we're going to do is reach around here to the back, and there's a power button. Just press that once. Get this Mac all started up here. And get some of this stuff out of the way. There we go. All right. It's like watching something cook, right? Okay, here we go. So what we're going to be talking about is this M32 Edit program. And what this thing is it's like a gigantic remote control for the mixing board. It works similar to how the iPad program works, but its purpose is a little bit different. What you would do is you set this up to the side of the mixer here so that you kind of have another screen to work with other than this tiny little screen here on the mixer. So it's super helpful in that regard. It's also great for when you're doing a lot of setting up of channels and things of that nature. You can do them quickly and use the keyboard to type them in instead of using the little encoder on the mixer. So anyway, let's jump into it. First thing I want you to notice here is there are two profiles here. There's the audio admin, and then there's the audio volunteer. The admin is someone who administrates this computer, adds programs, changes settings, things like that. Whereas the volunteer is set up as a standard user. So we're going to go ahead and go over. I'm using the keyboard. I'm going to use the little arrow keys here. You can use the mouse if you want, or you can use the arrow keys. I'm going to press this arrow key and you'll see it. Select that and just hit the enter key or the return key on the keyboard. There's no password set for the volunteer profile. You can set that up if you like. So anyway, here we go. We're going to go down to the bottom of the screen. There's this thing called a dock. If you take the cursor here, let me tighten this up. If you take the cursor and go down to the dock, this dock pops up and you'll see M32 Edit right here on the bottom. We're going to select that. And then M32 Edit will pop open. And the first thing it asks us is, hey, do you want to connect to this M32R? And we say, yes, we want to connect. So we're going to select connect. And then saying, how do you want to synchronize? And what we're going to do is mixer to PC. And I recommend that you always do mixer to PC. Okay? What you're saying is all the settings on the mixer are going to be transferred over to the PC instead of settings in the PC transferring back over to the mixer. All right? So I'm going to hit this and you'll see it hit its little progress bar here as it's sending information from the mixer to the PC. All right. So how I have this set up is super simple. I'm going to go ahead and close this little settings over here. All right. How I have this set up is on the left-hand side over here, you've got all your fader banks. So I have it set up 1 through 16. Right there, that's what we're looking at. And then if you go down one, you've got 25 through 32 on this side. And then on the other side, you have the auxiliary ins. And then you have all the buses over here, and then the matrices, the 6 matrices over here. Then the next one down is effects returns. Next one down from there are the DCAs. And then you have all, which I wouldn't recommend using because you have to scroll over here and with this bar down here in order to see everything. And you can't actually use the little, the mouse has a little scroll wheel here, and you can't actually use the horizontal scrolling for some reason. The program will not allow that. So I don't like using all. And then there's this cool feature over here called user. You can get user 1 and user 2, and right now they're blank. But you could set those up any way you want. You can move channels around, put spaces between channels, and really just set it up however you want for a couple different users there. Okay, so let's go to the top here. I'm going to go back to channels 1 through 16. So all the top here, this top row, has those familiar stuff. So you've got channel, got configure, gate, dynamics, EQ, sends, main left and right, effects 1 through 4, effects 5 through 8. So, excuse me, all the normal stuff that you would expect. So if I click on a channel, like the kick drum here, for example, I'm going to click on this kick. Let me focus there. I'm going to click on this kick drum. Now when I hit the config button, it's the configuration of this kick drum channel. I can see how things are laid out, all the basics, whether or not I've got phantom power going, if where the gain structure is set up. I can hit a gate or the dynamic section, and all of this is corresponding to what the kick drum is doing. So it's another way of seeing it on a larger screen, which is really great. You've got your sends over here, your main left and right, effects 1 through 4 and 5 through 8. Okay, so there's a quick overview. You do have some kind of global settings and things that are on the right over here. If you get in over to this tab and do that, you've got setup. Let me focus this. Setup and routing, meters. You got all these like kind of global settings that you can do over here. You can also save settings on this computer and then recall them, and then potentially send them over to the mixer. So if you want to do all your setup, like if you want to set up for a show, a different show, maybe it's a Christmas show or something, you could set everything up here and then load it over to the mixer. So it's a really powerful thing that you can do there. So anyway, I want to show you something real quick. For some reason, if for some reason you're not connected, you can hit this utility button. Not the utility button, sorry. You can hit, I think it's setup. Yeah. And then it says, hey, there's the mixer down here. You could select that, and then you could go, hey, connect to it, or synchronize to it. Okay? If for some reason you're not connected, that's how you would get connected again. So let's talk about how this thing communicates with the board. On the back here of this computer, there is a Cat5 cable right here, and there's also one over on the mixer back there. And both of those Cat5s go into the back of this little wireless router. That is how they're communicating with each other. Now this wireless router is not connected to the internet. It's just a local network that is used so that the computer can talk to the mixing board and vice versa. It's also used so that the iPad can talk wirelessly to this mixer. And then if you wanted to add other wireless devices from the stage, like say people wanted to bring their Android or Apple tablets in and mix their own mix from the stage, they could do that as well, and they would connect wirelessly to that router. So it's a good time to talk about this real quick. You'll notice that I have the on the Mac here, I have the wireless settings deselected. You can see that it's not on. I'd have to do this to turn it off, or to turn it on rather. Okay. The reason for that is I'm hardwired into the router. I don't need the wireless, okay? However, what that means is you've got no internet signal to this computer. So for any reason you need that, what you'd have to do is turn on this Wi-Fi, and then you'll see all of the available networks, and it's going to grab one, and it just grabbed media. But sometimes it'll grab CDA assembly, okay? And you actually have to go to CD8 assembly in order to get internet signal to this computer. All right. So you can see now that we're connected, and if I go down to like Chrome, for example, open Chrome, you can see that I'm now connected. Okay. And if I go back here and turn off the Wi-Fi, and then maybe try to search something here, for example, like, I don't know, and search shoes. You can say, uh-oh, no longer connected to the internet, okay? Even though I'm still network connected, I've got no internet access. So that's something you want to keep in mind, and I would leave the Wi-Fi off anytime you're running the sound system, because you do not want to accidentally switch over to the wrong feed, and then you have no control over your system remotely. I'm going to show you something. If I open network settings, you'll see that Ethernet is green. I am connected to Ethernet, and it shows you right there all the the IP address and whatnot. So I will do this for you though. I'll turn that off, and we'll go back to Wi-Fi here. And if I turn on the Wi-Fi, I want you to know the name of that little router that I showed you. That router is called Canvas Church Media, okay? And that's the one you have to be connected to in order to talk to the board and whatnot, okay? But what we're going to do is we don't want to connect to it with wireless. We're connected to it hardwired in the back. So I'm going to turn wireless back off again, because you don't want to accidentally jump on another network and lose your connection. See where it's actually saying, hey, lost connection. Okay. So anyway, there's the iMac, there's the M32 Edit, and a super powerful tool for just getting around, labeling things, and being able to see things on a large screen. All right, and I should mention there's actually no manual for this. I guess they're just counting on your familiarity with the M32, because things really do match one-to-one over here. So you shouldn't run into any problems using it. Should be very familiar. Okay. All right, guys. See you on the next one.